concerned rich society woman embarrasses Sandra Bullock at charity gala without knowing that Keanu Reeves is. The Crystal Rose Charity Gala was the event of the year in Los Angeles, an exclusive affair where Hollywood's elite and the city's wealthiest gathered to show off their generosity and their designer gowns. The Beverly Hills Hotel glittered with chandeliers and diamond-clad socialites as champagne flowed freely. Sandra Bullock, dressed in an elegant but understated black gown, walked in quietly, smiling warmly at guests and waving at familiar faces. She had always believed in attending these events for the cause, not for the spectacle. As she made her way toward the donation booth, a shrill voice cut through the air. "Oh, darling, you look simply comfortable," came the overly saccharine tone of Evelyn Harrington, a notorious socialite with a permanent air of self-importance. She was draped in a gown that could have paid off someone's mortgage, and her diamond necklace was nearly blinding. Sandra, ever gracious, smiled. "Well, I like to be able to move in my dress." Evelyn leaned in conspiratorially. "Oh, sweetie, I just love that you still attend these things, despite everything." Sandra raised an eyebrow. "Everything?" Evelyn gasped theatrically. "Oh, I didn't mean to bring up. Well, Hollywood can be so cruel to women who, reach a certain stage in their career, but I adore that you're still fighting the good fight, and honestly, I think it's inspiring that you're still showing up to events like these, even if, things aren't quite what they used to be for you." Sandra fought the urge to laugh. "Oh, I appreciate your concern, Evelyn," she said smoothly. But Evelyn wasn't done. "And I heard you came alone tonight." "Oh, my dear, that's so brave. I was just telling the girls at my table that it's so freeing to attend these things without needing to impress anyone anymore." Sandra opened her mouth to respond, but before she could, a deep, familiar voice interrupted. "Hey, babe, sorry I took so long." Keanu Reeves. Dressed in a sleek black suit, the John Wick star appeared at Sandra's side, casually slipping an arm around her waist. He smiled at Evelyn, the kind of polite yet unreadable smile that could mean anything from "nice to meet you" to "I know exactly what's happening here." Evelyn turned a shade of white that almost matched the pearls around her neck. "Oh, my, Keanu Reeves." Keanu nodded, as if just remembering who he was. "That's me." Sandra barely contained her smirk. "Keanu insisted on coming with me tonight, for moral support, since, as you pointed out, things aren't quite what they used to be for me." Keanu feigned shock. "Wait, are you saying Sandra Bullock isn't an absolute legend? Because I must have missed that memo." Evelyn's mouth opened and closed like a fish. "Oh, no, that's not what I—" Keanu turned to Sandra, eyes twinkling. "Come on, let's go make our donation. I hear they're giving out free judgment with every glass of champagne." Sandra chuckled and let Keanu lead her away, leaving Evelyn frozen in place, clutching her overpriced purse like a lifeline. As they reached the donation booth, Sandra nudged Keanu. "You didn't have to do that, Keanu grinned. "Oh, I did." And with that, they clinked their champagne glasses together and made the biggest donation of the night, leaving Evelyn and everyone else in stunned silence. Hope you liked this. Let me know if you want any changes or additions.
As Sandra and Keanu walked away from the stunned Evelyn Harrington, the room buzzed with murmurs. The richest and most powerful guests at the gala had just witnessed something rare. Evelyn, the self-appointed queen of high society, had been put in her place. Sandra sipped her champagne and glanced at Keanu. "You really enjoy making an entrance, don't you?" Keanu smirked. "Only when necessary. Besides, I figured you could use a dramatic moment. For old time's sake." Sandra chuckled. "Well, thank you for the save. Not that I needed it, but it was definitely more fun with you here." They reached the donation booth where a young woman in a sleek black uniform smiled at them. "Miss Bullock, Mr. Reeves, thank you for being here. Your generosity means so much." Sandra and Keanu exchanged a glance. They had discussed making a donation beforehand, but now, after Evelyn's little spectacle, they felt even more motivated to do something meaningful. Sandra leaned in. "What's the highest donation so far?" The woman hesitated before checking her list. Mrs. Evelyn Harrington pledged $1 million just before the event started." Keanu nodded. "Let's make it 2. Sandra gasped, laughing. "Are you trying to start a bidding war?" Keanu grinned. "Maybe." The woman's eyes widened. $2 million? That's incredibly generous. Keanu winked. It's for a good cause, right? As their donation was announced over the microphone, the entire ballroom turned toward them. A polite applause followed, and then, just as they predicted, Evelyn's voice cut through the noise. "Wait!" Evelyn marched up to the booth, her expression forced into a tight smile. I'll match it! 2 million! Keanu whispered to Sandra. Called it. Sandra smirked. 3. Evelyn's eye twitched. 4. Keanu raised an eyebrow. 5. By now the crowd was invested. People were gasping, whispering, nudging each other. Evelyn's face turned red, but she refused to back down. 6 million! Sandra turned to Keanu. You want to take this, or should I? Keanu tilted his head. Ladies first. Sandra leaned in, her voice just loud enough for everyone to hear. 10. The room erupted in cheers. Evelyn gasped, her hand clutching her pearls as if she were about to faint. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. Wow, Keanu whispered. That was a power move. Sandra smiled sweetly at Evelyn. It's for charity, after all. The host of the gala rushed to the microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, we are absolutely honoured by this incredible generosity tonight. Thanks to Miss Bullock and Mr. Reeves, we've reached a record-breaking donation amount. The cheers grew louder. Evelyn, seeing no way to top this without bankrupting herself, forced a smile and clapped stiffly. As the night went on, Sandra and Keanu enjoyed themselves, chatting with real friends, avoiding more socialite drama, and, most importantly, making a difference for the charity. At the end of the night, as they stepped outside into the cool air, Keanu turned to Sandra. So, think she learned her lesson? Sandra shrugged. Doubt it. But at least we helped raise a lot of money. Keanu grinned. And we got free entertainment. Sandra laughed. Best gala ever. With that, they stepped into their car and drove off, leaving behind a night that would be talked about in Hollywood for years.
As their car pulled away from the Beverly Hills Hotel, Sandra leaned back in her seat, letting out a satisfied sigh. Well, that was unexpectedly fun, she admitted, glancing at Keanu. Keanu smirked. Nothing like a good old-fashioned socialite meltdown to spice up a charity event. Sandra chuckled, shaking her head. Do you think Evelyn will ever speak to me again? Keanu feigned deep thought. If by speak to you, you mean plot her revenge in an overly dramatic way at some future event, then absolutely. Sandra laughed. Oh great, guess I'll have to watch my back at the next gala. Keanu turned to her with a teasing smile. Don't worry, I'll be your bodyguard. Sandra playfully rolled her eyes. Oh please, you're way too nice to be my bodyguard. Keanu raised an eyebrow. You have seen John Wick, right? Sandra smirked. Yeah, but I also know you in real life, Mr. Nicest Guy in Hollywood. Keanu laughed but didn't deny it. Instead, he looked out the window, a thoughtful expression crossing his face. Hey, he said after a moment. That was pretty cool, what you did back there. Sandra raised an eyebrow. What, outbidding Evelyn? Keanu shook his head. No, I mean how you handled the whole thing. You didn't let her get to you. You just turned it into something good. Sandra smiled. Well, I've been in Hollywood long enough to know how to handle people like her. Keanu nodded. Still, it was impressive. Sandra felt a warmth in her chest. Keanu had a way of making people feel seen, and she appreciated that about him. After a moment of comfortable silence, she turned to him with a mischievous grin. So what's next, she asked. Want to crash another charity event, maybe see if we can one-up some more snobby socialites? Keanu chuckled. Tempting, but how about something a little more low-key? Late-night tacos? Sandra gasped. Keanu Reeves, are you asking me on a taco date? Keanu smirked. Is it working? Sandra laughed. Absolutely, let's go. And with that, they rerouted their driver to a tiny taco stand in downtown LA. Because while high society drama was entertaining, nothing beat good food and even better company. As they drove into the night, they both knew one thing for sure. No matter how crazy Hollywood got, they'd always have each other's backs. And a lot of fun along the way. The end, for real this time. I hope you like this continuation. Let me know if you want to add anything more. As Sandra and Keanu's car weaved through the city streets, the neon lights of Los Angeles reflected in the windows. The charity gala was already becoming a distant memory, replaced by the anticipation of something far more exciting, late-night tacos. Pulling up to El Chato Taco Truck, one of LA's hidden gems, they stepped out of the car and into the warm, slightly greasy aroma of sizzling carne asada and fresh tortillas. The energy here was the complete opposite of the gala. No gowns, no champagne, just people gathered under dim streetlights laughing, eating, and enjoying the moment. Keanu grinned. Now this is my kind of scene. Sandra chuckled, right? And bonus, 0 Evelyn Harringtons in sight. They approached the counter, where the cook, a middle-aged man with a kind smile, greeted them without even a hint of recognition. What can I get you to? Keanu glanced at Sandra. Ladies first. Sandra smirked. 2 El Pasta tacos extra lime. Keanu nodded. Nice choice. I'll take 3 carne asada and a bottle of that spicy salsa. The cook nodded and got to work, the sound of the grill sizzling as he expertly flipped and chopped the meat. As they waited, Sandra leaned against the counter, glancing at Keanu. You ever think about how weird it is that we can be at $1 million gala 1 minute and a taco truck the next? Keanu shrugged. That's the balance. Fancy events are fun, but this... He gestured to their surroundings. This is real. Sandra smiled. Yeah, it really is. Their tacos arrived, wrapped in simple foil, no silver platters, no perfectly arranged microgreens, just delicious, messy perfection. They found an empty bench nearby, the city humming around them as they took their first bites. Oh my God, Sandra mumbled, mouthful. Why do these taste better at midnight? Keanu grinned between bites. Because this is when tacos are meant to be eaten. They ate in companionable silence, the kind of silence that only came with years of friendship and mutual understanding. After a while, Sandra wiped her mouth with a napkin and looked at Keanu thoughtfully. You ever think about how different life would have been if we hadn't done speed together? Keanu chuckled. I try not to think about alternate universes too much. Hurts my brain. Sandra laughed. Fair. But seriously, we've been friends for, what, almost 30 years? Keanu nodded. Give or take. Sandra leaned back. You know what I love? We've both had our own crazy journeys, but somehow we always end up here, just 2 people eating tacos at midnight. Keanu smiled. That's a pretty great way to sum it up. They clinked their soda bottles together in a silent toast. A few feet away, a young couple was watching them, whispering excitedly. The woman hesitated before stepping closer. I'm so sorry to interrupt, but are you Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock? Keanu wiped his mouth with a napkin and grinned. Guilty. The woman's eyes widened. Oh my God, we love you guys. Speed is our favorite movie. And the lake house. Sandra smiled. That's so sweet of you. The woman's boyfriend hesitated. I know this is a long shot, but would you mind taking a selfie with us? Keanu glanced at Sandra, who shrugged. Only if we can hold our tacos in the picture. The couple laughed, and just like that, the 4 of them squeezed together for a perfectly ridiculous midnight taco selfie. As the couple walked away, giddy with excitement, Sandra shook her head. We really do have the best fans. Keanu nodded. Yeah, and the best tacos. Sandra smirked. Best friends too? Keanu raised his soda bottle. Best friends too. They finished their food, watching the city move around them, knowing that no matter how wild Hollywood got, moments like these were what really mattered. And with that, they hopped back into the car, driving off into the night, ready for whatever adventure came next. The end. For real this time. That was fun. Let me know if you want even more adventures for these two. As Keanu and Sandra's car cruised through the dimly lit streets of Los Angeles, Sandra let out a satisfied sigh, patting her stomach. Okay, I might have overdone it with the tacos, she admitted. Keanu chuckled. I warned you about that extra one. Sandra shot him a playful glare. And yet, you didn't stop me. Keanu smirked. Would you have listened? Sandra thought for a second. No, not at all. Keanu just nodded, amused, as he gazed out the window at the passing lights. A comfortable silence settled between them, the kind that only old friends could share. But then Sandra, ever the troublemaker, got a mischievous glint in her eyes. You know, she mused, stretching her arms. This night has been surprisingly tame considering the chaos we started at the gala. Keanu gave her a side glance. Tame, Sandra grinned. Oh, come on. We embarrassed an entire socialite, outbid the rich elite for charity, and devoured tacos at an ungodly hour. The night should end with something unpredictable. Keanu sighed dramatically. You just have to stir things up, don't you? Sandra shrugged innocently. I'm just saying, when's the last time we did something completely unplanned? Keanu looked at her for a long moment, then smirked. Okay, fine. Sandra blinked. Wait, really? Keanu nodded. Yeah, we're gonna flip a coin. Sandra narrowed her eyes. Flip a coin? For what? Keanu pulled a quarter out of his pocket and held it up. Heads, we call it a night like responsible adults. Tails, we go on an adventure. Sandra gasped, Ooh, I love this. She leaned in eagerly. Do it. Keanu flicked the coin into the air. It spun, catching the light before landing in his palm. He slapped it onto the back of his other hand and peeked under his fingers. He smirked. Sandra practically bounced in her seat. Well, what is it? Keanu turned his palm to show her. Tails. Sandra let out a dramatic gasp. Destiny has spoken. Keanu chuckled. All right then, Bullock. What's the adventure? Sandra thought for a second, then her face lit up. I know exactly where we're going. Keanu raised an eyebrow. Should I be concerned? Sandra grinned mischievously. Always. And with that, she leaned forward and gave their driver an address. Keanu glanced at her curiously but didn't ask. He just sat back, amused and intrigued, as the car took a sudden detour into the unknown. Whatever was waiting for them next, one thing was certain. This night was far from over. To be continued. Want me to keep going? I feel like these two are just getting started.